first and most important is you have to understand what the voltage is. The voltage will tell you what the minimum approach distance is. I worked for Asplund. The work I was doing was strictly power line clearance, and wherever the trees came within that minimum approach distance, you would take those tree parts that came within that separation distance and you trim them back. Typically for the overhead power lines, the voltage is going to be either 7200 or 12.5. And for that, your minimum approach distance is 2'2". So what that means is no part of your person or the equipment is supposed to encroach on that 2'2" minimum approach distance. And the only thing that should get within that distance is an insulated tool. So we've got two sets of poles. We've got the working set. We've got the blanketed set. They have to stay in this protective blanket so that way they don't get scratched up, they don't get dinged, and they don't get dirty. Because dirt can become conductive. So since these ones are in this protective jacket, we know they're in good condition. So we're going to inspect them. So at the end of every pole, at the very end, it has to have this rubber grommet. Okay, that's how you know it's the last one in the line. We never want this to sit on the ground. We want it always to be on this jacket here. So we inspect these. You want to make sure when you look in them, you can't see through it, right? Because there's foam in there. So we're going to go ahead, put these together. So here's what we're going to do first. We're going to make sure none of this is in the power lines. So it's not. So we're good. All right, so normally if at the foot of the ladder you can reach out and your arm is pretty much straight, then you know you got the right angle with the ladder. We're going to get some cones out here too. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to look and see the power lines right here are these overhead, this pair of parallel lines right here. What we want to make sure is that none of the tree parts that we're cutting are going to come in contact with that wire. You can see right there where it's a little crispy. So we want to be mindful of that. This branch that we're cutting right here is not in contact over there, but still it's close enough. So what we're going to want to do is take a couple of nips with an insulated pole. What we're going to do is we're going to wait for a gap in traffic. Looks like we got it. We're going to take a couple nips off of this. So what we're doing is we're cooling it off. What that means is it's hot because it's in the wires right now. We want to cool it off before we work on anything that's too close. So what we want to do is we want to establish that 2'2" perimeter. If any of the tree parts are going to hit the wire, we're going to make sure that our tool is, if possible, not touching that tree part by the time that tree part touches the wire. So we got about a 2'2" there. Come over here, take a couple more pieces. Okay, so now we'll tie that up and we'll put these back together, put them back in the jacket, and then they go straight back in the truck. We don't want to leave these out. These are special just for that. We got to be real nice to these ones. Okay, and so now we can more comfortably work because we've cleared out that threat. It doesn't mean the threat's been eliminated entirely. It just means that now we can handle these parts. But we have to be mindful, because if we're cutting a part that arches up, that if you could cut it, it could fall into the wire. You have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Right? So just because it's not within 2'2" now, it could be. So they have the potential for high voltage. High voltage is 601 volts and higher. So they have the potential for that 601 or higher. You're not supposed to make direct contact with them. And as you can see, wherever tree parts run near them, a sort of natural trimming already occurs. The prevailing wisdom is don't become the second victim. You have to overcome the urge to be a hero and jump in there and save the person, because most likely if they're energized and you get anywhere close to them, you're going to become energized. In fact, a lot of the trucks, they've actually built into the mechanism, the recovery mechanism, that if somebody were to be elevated in the bucket and become incapacitated as they're energized, you can't manipulate the controls on the truck without having an actual hand on the truck, which is to prevent people from using poles to walk up to the dead man controls and operate the dead man controls. Because if that truck becomes energized, it energizes rings around the truck in the ground. And it's called step potential. So if you step close to the truck and you touch two of those rings, you become energized also. And so they do that to discourage people from getting close to the truck. It's an unfortunate thing, but you have to get on the phone and hopefully get the energy source control. In this case, it would be like Seattle City Light or Puget Sound Energy or Snohomish County PUD. You'd have to get their energy control dispatchers to de-energize that line if possible. But you're talking about a matter of minutes, and if somebody's being shocked, potentially electrocuted, that's it, yeah. There are some other instances where most likely what's happened is a climber has become energized, and then that threat goes away. So you were holding a branch, you cut it, it fell into the wire, you got shocked and you let go of it, and now you're incapacitated. And then it's an aerial rescue situation. In fact, we just did our aerial rescue training a few weeks ago, specifically for that instance. So you have to be ready. There's a protocol that goes into, how and when to rescue somebody, and how that changes depending on the level of their injuries. I think we've got this one. Let's see about maybe taking this lower branch right here. Yeah, let's reach up there with the sticks on, get that one. I like it, I love it. Masterful, wonderful work. Hey, you know what? There's no wrong way to do it, except for the one that gets you killed. Hey, what's the speed limit here? Like 187,000 miles an hour? And in the wise words of Tenacious D, that's teamwork.
Yeah, and the shop zone there.
I should probably like practice this, because I have never used it. I think Karl Marx is like rolling over in his grave right now.